Okay, if we're going to keep our chutney blonde, we've got to make a spice bag. I've got a square of cheesecloth, approximately 12 by 12 inches. In it, I've got 6 broken cinnamon sticks. I've got a tablespoon of whole allspice, a tablespoon of whole cloves, and a tablespoon of cardamom seeds. Add those definitely. Those are the best chutney spices there are. We have all of our fruit chopped, our pineapple, our peaches, our nectarines. They've been sitting in the big pot over warm on the stove for about an hour. Look at all the juice. We've added our spice bag, which we made a little while ago, and now we need to add the other flavors in the chutney. I've got approximately 10 cups here. I don't need to measure because I'm not using pectin. So to that, I'm going to add approximately 6 cups of chopped onion. Onions and chutney are like peanut butter and jelly. You can't eat them separate, but they're just better together. If this had been a darker chutney, I would have probably browned the onions, but we're trying to go blonde. Same reason I'm using these golden raisins, about a cup. As you can tell, it's fun trying to do this, cook with one hand and record with the other. I want to keep that blonde color going, so I'm kind of choosing ingredients and handling ingredients in ways to keep them as light as possible. To this, I'm going to add about a cup of chopped crystallized ginger. I've just broken it with my hands basically into rough size pieces, throwing it in. I'm also going to add about a 1/4 cup of broken pieces of dried sliced garlic. This is a product you can buy at Asian supermarkets. In big bags, it's about $1 a pound. It's well worth your investment. You can make your own garlic powder or whatever off of it. I'm also needing some salt in this, so I'm going to add Worcestershire because that brings a lot of other flavor components into it as well as just pure salt. In this amount of chutney, I'm going to use about a 1/4 cup, maybe a little short. That's just a rough approximation. Again, I cook. I don't really measure that much. I'm trying to learn how to measure to show all of you. You also need some bright acid in chutney, not only for the flavor, but also because to preserve this, you need a little acid in the mix. So I'm going to add in about a cup of red wine vinegar. Make sure it's good fresh red wine vinegar so that it's got good acidity to it. We're going to cook this some, but it will definitely brighten up the mix. Okay, our chutney has been cooking probably about 3 hours at this point. It is beginning to get nice and thick, but we want it thicker than this. So we're going to continue to let it thicken up a little bit longer. Because I'm using really ripe fruit, one of the important things that I want to do right before I put this in the jars is I want to heat this up over at least 180 degrees. That's a good temperature. It gets rid of most of the potential bacteria that you're going to have in your chutney. As you can tell, it's pretty hot. This is why you use a big pot and a long-handled spoon, because this pops and will burn you. Be very careful. As you can see, now that the steam has dropped, this is about the consistency you want of your chutney. It's very thick. It doesn't exactly cling to the spoon, but it's smooth enough to spread. This is exactly what you're looking for to go in your jars. Once we have each jar filled with chutney up to a 1/4 inch of headspace, we want to clean the lip of the jar with a paper towel dipped in boiling water. That's the best way to do it. Throw it away often. That way you don't run the risk of recontaminating the lid. Reaching back into my boiling water pot where I sterilize my jars, I'm going to use a parts magnet to get my lid. As you can see, that cute little contraption. This is kind of hard to show you recording with one hand and doing with the other, as you can tell, but that parts magnet is an interesting tool. It's about 2.5 feet long. It's on a spring, and there's a magnet on the end that's just strong enough to pick up one lid, even if it's in a stack of more, or one ring, as you can tell here in just a second when I reach back in the pot. It'll only pick up one at a time, so it's really handy to get rings and lids out of boiling water. I'm going to take that lid and screw it back on finger top and return it to that pot, because that's now my boiling water canner to process and seal my jars. One final note, this is my pot that I've taken 7 pints of chutney out of. As you'll notice, there is nothing stuck in it. I'm not claiming to be perfect. This is not why I'm showing you the pot. Why I'm showing you the pot is that this is what your pot should look like. This is what we all strive for. If you have your pot on a heat above about medium, you should always be standing over it, stirring it full time. You do not want your jams, jellies, chutneys, whatever to stick. Sticking in the bottom of this pot makes for bad taste in your chutney. So do everything you can to prevent that from happening.